in MacEachran's case, he led the charge, and part of his ability to do that was his standing at the university. So, in some ways, what I see different about this than if he had only been a serial killer is that his position as an important person in the university wouldn't have helped him in his serial killing career, but it did enable him to be listened to, etc. Do you see that as having relevance to this particular problem?
Not to the department's decision, because the department had no role in giving him that position. But I think it is relevant to a decision by the university, if the university wanted to take such a decision. Maybe it's more relevant to a decision as to whether the university should apologize. Because what you're saying is that the university actually had a ancillary role in putting this person into the position of power that they had.
I think what I'm saying is that because he used his position with the university, that it also was a hurt against the university as well as a hurt against the people who became the victims of sterilization.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Whether we could really assign any damage to the university. I mean, I tend to think of it the other way, whether the university doesn't have to accept some measure of responsibility for the kind of damage that was done to Leilani and all the other people. That's a tough one, but I mean, it certainly can't be ruled out as relevant.
But I actually find it a bit puzzling that early on in your paper, you were just repeating it just now, early on you said, the question, should the philosophy department have apologized? And said no, because it wasn't responsible. But I want to push you on exactly that point, and I think, actually I thought Dick and I were going in the same direction here. I think we're going in different directions. I'm actually wondering whether, in fact, the department should, in fact, apologize, because I think your severance of what he did as a member of the department and what he did as the chair of the eugenics board, I'm not sure those should be as separate as you want. And again, this may have some concerns about how one thinks about things historically, but I'm a member of the philosophy department, and I serve on a number of boards for the provincial government doing some are sort of policy issues. Some make decisions about particular cases. And it is pretty clear to me that I've been appointed to those boards in part, in some cases directly, because of my affiliation with the university. In some cases, there's actually a letter written to my chair saying, can you recommend someone? And the chair says, how about Griner? It seems to me when there are those sorts of connections, and I'm regularly on my annual report putting down that, I'm on this board and I serve this, and my chair might say to me, you're wasting your time doing that, Griner, or that board's doing disreputable things, you should get off of it. I think the connection between what I do as a philosopher serving on some provincial boards is pretty closely tied to my professional identity as a philosopher at the University of Alberta. And it seems to me MacEachran looks like the same sort of case. You have someone who, by virtue of his standing, as Dick was saying, in the university, by virtue of his professional standing there, which the university is putting its name behind, it seems that we do then start to have connections between what he does as a chair of that board and what he does as a member of the university and as a member of a particular department. So I find it a little bit surprising you make that sever the department from any responsibility. And then I was even more puzzled that in answer to Dick's question, you seem to say the department didn't have any responsibility, and so therefore it didn't need to apologize. Maybe the university should apologize. It seems to me that is giving his direct professional colleagues a bit of a free ride that perhaps they don't deserve. And those of us who were in the department sort of years later, need to consider that as well.
He was the founding chair of the Department of Philosophy and Psychology. It was called Department of Philosophy, Psychology, and Education for a while before they all split. But from depending which document you look at, either 1911 or 1914, he was also the provost. But he was, my understanding is that he was appointed to the position he was partly because he was provost of the university. But at the same time, he was still the chair of the department until 1945. Yeah, again, if I've got my history right, it might be false, but when I went through the history, that's what the history looks like. And he was appointed there partly because of his expertise in science, because it was the Department of Philosophy and Psychology. He had studied with Wundt in Germany. If you read his dissertation in German, which I have, it's a straight philosophy dissertation as we characterize it now. It's not a scientific psychology experimental dissertation. But he was there as one of the two scientific experts on the panel. Okay, so that, I think it just adds to filling out the factual background. The feasible factual, I might have some of the historical facts there, but I think that's how I understand it.
I guess I still hold the position that as long as the department played no role in recommending him for the position as chair of the eugenics board, and the department played no role in his having the position at the university that he had, I really don't see how it can be held to be in any way responsible. Now, the university is in a different position. I don't know whether they recommended him or not. If they did, certainly that puts some responsibility on them. But certainly they were responsible for his having the position that he had. I mean, in those days, it wasn't the case that a department had all that much role in choosing its own professor. The professor was chosen by the higher-ups in the university, and then the professor pretty much chose what department he wanted. So, yeah, I think it's extending the notion of responsibility too far. That's my reaction, but I take your comments.